So welcome everyone to this session of the Berkeley Center for Law and Technology's Careers podcast, or I guess webcast now. Today we have, again, a wonderful, wonderful partner from Wilson Sonsini. Wilson has again given us a little bit of their time to explain what the practice of law looks like, what the administration within a law firm looks like. In this particular session blends both of those because the dedication to pro bono is the practice of law, but it doesn't exist without the administrative piece of a law firm really supporting it. And what Wilson has is a partner that is in charge of pro bono, which not every firm does. A lot of times it floats around, or there are partners that have responsibility for a year, but this is not their dedicated profession. And Luke Liss with us today, a partner that has dedicated his career, at least this portion of his career, to making pro bono work within big law firms, which really makes him an incredibly impactful attorney in the pro bono world, because he can marshal the resources and the abilities of the lawyers at a firm like a Wilson and bring them to bear on big cases, big and small cases, big impactful cases on a social level and impactful cases on an individual level. So with that introduction, Luke, I really appreciate what you do. I think what you do and how you do it is unique from what I've seen from my career. And I'd love to let you explain more about what pro bono looks like in big law firms, what it should look like, and how junior attorneys, entry-level attorneys should be thinking about this as they make decisions on what firms they go to and what they want their practice to look like. So thank you for joining us.
For sure. And first, Wayne, thank you for having me. It's really great to be here with you and to talk to the students on my favorite topic of pro bono. So I really appreciate what you're doing in helping folks kind of figure out the differences between a lot of firms that may often seem like a black box. And so I could start with just a little bit of my background. So Wayne, as you said, I'm the pro bono partner at Wilson Sonsini. My background is litigation. I've been here since I was a summer associate way back in 2005, and I did litigation for years, increasingly got involved with the pro bono program. The firm encouraged it every step of the way. Ultimately, I became the firm's first pro bono counsel, and then a few years later, became the firm's first pro bono partner. And as you said, it's kind of a rare position in firms these days, but it's something folks can look out for as well, because to me, it shows a real commitment on the part of this firm to pro bono, that they put a lot of resources in it. And that kind of support starts from the very top with our managing partner, Doug Clark, and chair of the board, Katie Martin.
Well, Luke, maybe we just start at the highest level. What does pro bono work look like within the structure of a large law firm?
For sure. And I'll base this on what it looks like at our firm first, and then kind of zoom out a little bit at what it might look like at other firms. But for us, we have basically a pro bono and community impact team now. And I lead that team as the pro bono partner. We have several staff members as well as attorneys. So we have a pro bono counsel, senior pro bono counsel in New York, Tonya Klausner, who's a retired partner. And we have a transactional pro bono counsel in Palo Alto, Leanne Craze, who focuses on the transactional side. And then we have a number of staff members as well. And so what we really try to do is have a comprehensive program that covers impact litigation. So as you mentioned, we do a lot of large-scale impact litigation, but also smaller matters, things like helping trafficking survivors, and we do a ton of immigration work. And then increasingly as well, we do a lot of transactional and nonprofit work, or work for social enterprises that gives folks who are more on the transactional side a lot of opportunities to get involved as well. So really a really broad umbrella of opportunities, and we seek to administrate that, facilitate that, get people involved in what they're passionate in, as well as develop their skills along the way and give back to our communities, which is a fundamental value of ours.
So I'd love to dig into those two areas a little bit more. I mean, the litigation side, people understand typically what that might look like, but you use a phrase that maybe people don't see as much as impact litigation. So what does that mean in the pro bono world, and what does that mean to an attorney that's helping?
For sure, and it's a great question. So when I think of impact litigation, I think of impact beyond that individual case. And I'll just give an example of our most recent case that we filed about 2 months ago against the federal government, against the USDA, on behalf of a proposed class of Black farmers. Now, our clients are Angie and June Provost, fourth-generation farmers in Louisiana, but we're going to seek to represent a class of Black farmers nationwide. And what we allege is that the USDA has discriminated against Black and brown farmers for over a century in the servicing and approval of loans that are vital for farming. It's just a major part of farming on a large scale. And so the impact there is we're seeking to end this practice that we allege goes on across the country, has gone on for decades, that sort of thing. So it's bigger than our individual clients, who are wonderful folks, but seeking to make an impact. And that's kind of an example of what we do across various areas. So it's larger scale litigation in that way on issues that affect us all.
Now, when you talk about the transactional side, it's just not as intuitive on, especially for entry-level lawyers. How do transactional lawyers get involved in pro bono?
Yeah, so another great question, and that's something that we're increasingly focused on, and other firms as well, is there's a few different ways. So one is there's a lot of great nonprofits who just need help with their governance, who need help with things like contracts, who need all the standard things that your paying clients might need as well. And oftentimes our folks will propose nonprofits that they're interested in that we then assist and have ongoing relationships with. Another way that's really exciting and kind of newer is working with social enterprises. And that's oftentimes will be startups focused on things like sustainability, for example. So we will help incorporate them, we will help them get them running. And if they're focused on an issue that can be defined as kind of for a social good, for example, a startup focused on solar panels in Africa, or infrastructure in Africa, or sustainability here in the US, those will often qualify for pro bono for a limited time, and we will get our folks involved in those. So it really is a growing area where transactional and corporate folks can get involved. And I'll also note that they often do get involved in things like immigration as well, representing survivors too.
Now, how do the clients come to you?
So it's a great question, a few different ways. On the transactional and nonprofit side, oftentimes they'll come directly to us or through referrals. So it might be a high school student with an idea for a nonprofit that they're looking to get incorporated, or they might be referred to us by another nonprofit. In the immigration side, we work with nonprofits like Community Legal Services in East Palo Alto, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, Hooray, and they will refer clients to us and help us along the way. Because, for example, when we're working on an immigration matter, we may not be subject matter experts in asylum, for example, but they will assist us with those cases. And then with impact litigation, we'll often have longstanding relationships with nonprofits who will say, hey, do you want to partner with us on a case? So, for example, one of my favorites is the Center for Justice and Accountability. And we've done multiple human rights cases with them, and often they'll just come to us and say, hey, are you interested in this? Usually the answer is yes. So several different ways. A lot of times our folks at the firm will propose new pro bono clients that they'd like to take on as well and submit those to the pro bono committee for approval.
Well, Lucas, as I talk with law students from here and from other schools, I hear a little bit of skepticism in them. They said, look, these firms are paying huge salaries for first years. They tell us we're not profitable. They tell us we're going to have to work a lot. Pro bono doesn't seem like a real opportunity. It seems like something maybe for older, more senior lawyers that have been around for a long time, or maybe just window dressing. Which, I don't blame students for being a little bit cautious and skeptical. It's hard to read from a website what really is important to a firm and what's really not. So, can you talk in general about about pro bono in Biglaw, and then more in particular about what Wilson's doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a great point, and students are right to be skeptical. I mean, as future lawyers, I would kind of hope that that would be part of their DNA. So it's totally understandable, especially when you consider that all of these firms these days have flashy websites. They're all going to say that pro bono is a huge part of their culture. And it can be hard to tell on the surface, how true that is. And I know that there's also a lot of commentary on the internet about how miserable a place Biglaw is, and that no one cares about pro bono, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think, to me, some of that gets pretty overblown, but I can only speak to my own experience. But I think there's a few ways that students can suss out a little bit and get a better idea of how a firm's commitment to pro bono really looks, if that's something that's important to them. And so the first is, you've got to go beyond the website. And one of the ways to do that is to Google a firm's name and Google pro bono, Google impact litigation, that sort of thing. So I would encourage people, even just, you could do an experiment, Google Wilson Sonsini and pro bono, or Liss and pro bono, or litigation. And you'll see that we have done multiple really, really large cases. So for example, we sued the federal government on behalf of the largest class of Medicare patients in history in a case that spanned 3 presidential administrations, and we won at trial and then on appeal. And I mention that because a case like that takes a tremendous amount of resources, both monetarily as well as time. And that's something, if a firm's willing to do, it shows that they have a true commitment to actually doing pro bono, beyond just saying, hey, we do this, or there's a project or two. And then another strategy I would use is to reach out and talk to people, talk to associates at the firm, second year, third years that maybe went to your school, or that you have another connection with, and see what kind of pro bono work they've done. And I would do this outside of the interview process and within it as well, if it's something that's important to you. And then third, I'd also see what kind of infrastructure the firm has. Do they have a pro bono partner? Do they have full-time staff that's focused on this? Because if they do, that's a pretty good indicator that it's something that they actually value and structure for students. So I think there's several ways to really get past that. And I will say a plug, not only just I'll go into our firm, but for firms in general. I think that there are 15 to 20 firms that really are doing amazing work out there, and that really care about it. And it's a part of what they do, because I'll say too, many clients, especially our clients, care about what pro bono we're doing, and that we are positive members of our communities, and that we provide opportunities for them to partner with us as well on pro bono. So it's something that several firms really do value. And then so here at Wilson Sonsini, it's always been a big part of what we do as a firm, and we take really seriously our obligation to give back and pay forward to our communities, not just here in Palo Alto, but for all of our offices. And even though my position as a partner, pro bono partner, is relatively new, that goes back generationally to, the first Black partner in the Bay Area, Harry Bremond, a really close friend of mine and mentor at 89 years young, was a partner here for over 40 years, and really got our pro bono program off the ground along with others, and really made it a key part of our practice. And that kind of dedication extends to today, with our managing partner, Doug Clark, and chair of the board, Katie Martin, really being big supporters of our pro bono program. And then we just are excited about it. We're happy about it. It's a huge part of developing our attorneys, making sure they become very well-rounded, have wonderful experiences, and just fulfill our obligation as lawyers to give back to our communities.
So I guess the question then comes up, for these firms that are interested in pro bono, how do junior level attorneys or entry level attorneys get involved? Or is this just something for the more senior attorneys?
Yeah, it's a great question, Wayne. And I think if they're doing it right, the focus should be often on junior attorneys. So one of the things I think about, so I both administer our program, and I also still do litigation myself because I love it. I'm a litigator. And so in my cases, one of my highest priorities is making sure that the junior attorneys are getting reps. They're getting depositions, they're getting arguments, they're writing. They're key parts of the team, and it's a way that you can really accelerate development. So it's not just pro bono for its own sake. It's for developing attorneys, and I see it over and over again. The junior attorneys that get those experiences develop and become confident attorneys much faster. And so to us, it's a really key part of our program, and senior attorneys get involved as well. It's great to have partners who want to supervise or get involved or who care, but it really should be holistic, and not just attorneys, but staff too.
Well, I guess that's an important point. And often, when firms talk about pro bono, or when you talk about pro bono, it's always about public good and public benefit, and that's important. But it's okay to have a little bit of selfish benefit in it also, and that's what makes it actually work for law firms, in my opinion, is that you're not only being part of the community, but you're developing your own skill set to be a better lawyer. Maybe getting opportunities that a big commercial litigation wouldn't give you. For a few years, you could go get a deposition or a court hearing in these smaller cases or something else earlier on. Is it okay for students to think about it that way, in terms of it's good for society and it's good for me?
Absolutely. I think that is the correct way to think about it if you're considering a firm. If you're somebody who's purely, I want to be in a nonprofit, that's what I want to do, I think you should take that path. But if you're someone who's kind of like, I really have, I really want to do good and give back, but I'm also really interested in working at a firm, I think that's the perfect way to think about it, because I think that's the way that all the firms that really are doing it do think about it. Like, let's be honest, we are all businesses, so there is always going to be that component to it. But I also think that some of the efficiencies firms can bring can really enhance what they do. Even with that kind of mindset, it can be kind of an enhancing way to look at it, because we're looking at being efficient. We're getting involved in different areas. We're looking at really developing people and talented people and getting them those skills. And then they don't just do a pro bono case once as a junior and then never do it again. They then can supervise more matters and get more involved at a higher level and increase our impact. So in some ways, I feel like looking at it from that development piece is really a good way to do so, because ultimately you're increasing impact and you're developing as a lawyer, and it will just make you all around a more effective lawyer.
I gotta tell you, look, my career in Biglaw, I came to pro bono late in my career. And as I retired from day-to-day litigation, still some of the cases that I tell people about and talk about are these pro bono cases. I did some civil rights litigation in federal court, but the thing I love most was taking a lot of junior associates to do their first hearing.
Yeah.
Or do their first deposition. Prison guards are a tough first deposition for a second-year lawyer or a first-year lawyer. They're a tough deposition for a 30-year lawyer. But I watched every one of those every one of those junior lawyers come out not only fulfilled from doing the work and energized, but they got real experience early on and direct mentoring, because it was just them and me on the case, not a lot of people in between. So I enjoyed it as a mentor, and I just enjoyed the litigation as part of the community work. So it is something that's really worthwhile, I think, not only societal wise, but for development and just for enjoyment. I did patent litigation, and civil rights litigation looks nothing like patent litigation.
Yeah.
But it was exciting. And so I hope people feel that it's comfortable to enjoy it and give back at the same time.
You know what? Yeah, it's such a great point too. Is a huge part of it is team building. And you mentioned you're doing patent litigation, all of a sudden you're doing civil rights litigation where people are deposing prison guards. And so it's very different from your day-to-day, but it also made you a better lawyer. It made them a better lawyer. And it's a sense of team building too within a firm. And I think that's an extremely valuable part of it, because similarly, in a lot of our larger cases, we'll have folks from various different offices, oftentimes different practice groups, working together. And in a lot of big firms, that's such a vital connective tissue anyways, because you're going to be working across offices, you're going to be working across groups. And so this only enhances that. And so, and some of the relationships I think about in similar matters such as to that are so valuable, not only to us, but to as a firm, because it kind of all pulls us together a little bit more. So there's a lot of these kind of corollary benefits that I think are so true, and some of the things that bring me a lot of joy.
I want to make sure that point is not missed. The ability to work across offices and across groups is really vital in today's larger law firms, and especially post-COVID, where you're doing more and more virtually, but that's allowed other groups to start staffing nationwide. Patent litigation in my world has been pretty good for years because you had to because you needed technical backgrounds and you just found people wherever they happen to be sitting. But it seems like firms today are much more distributed, and any ability to work cross office with people your own vintage, people more senior, is really a way for career development and for happiness development. It's nice to have friends at work.
It is, and
even if they don't
really,
say.
oh, I'm sorry. It really is, both from the individual standpoint and from the firm standpoint to me, because it's like you're building these relationships with people you might not encounter otherwise, and that might lead to other projects or new types of work in the future for you as an individual. And you're also getting to know people across various generations, as well as offices and physical locations. And then from this firm standpoint, it's like building that connective tissue across offices, building kind of that shared culture, and having people get to know each other, which is so important. As you said, I think our world now, post-COVID, is so diffuse, and it's so important to be able to have geography doesn't matter as much, physical geography, and our clients are everywhere. So I feel like it all kind of flows with that, to have kind of a pro bono practice where, we'll have a team that has folks in New York, DC, Los Angeles, here in the Bay Area, and maybe in Colorado, remote somewhere. So it really is an interesting and kind of fun time in that way.
Well, last question for you, Luke, and this is probably the most important. So you've just convinced students that this needs to be part of their life, and they need to understand they're looking for firms that are really interested in this, or maybe at least offices, where they're going to be. How do they figure it out? Websites are not that useful. So how do they figure it out? What questions should they ask? When should they ask those questions? How would you guide them?
So I'd say, almost with anything that a student's really interested in, when you're really interested in a firm or a practice area or subject, first do the legwork yourself, and so you know what kind of questions you want to ask and what kind of questions you have, and that you've shown you've done your homework. So you go beyond the website, take a look at the website. It'll give you a really high level idea, but then Google the firm, find every piece of information. You can spend 2 hours going through everything you can find on X firm and pro bono, or X firm and pro bono litigation, or X firm and nonprofits. Find what you can say, not just what they've said about themselves, but what others have said. Have they won awards for it? Have they been recognized for their work? Do they partner with nonprofits closely and regularly? Do that. Find the people that work at the firm that you may have a connection with, of various generations, that may have gone to your school, that sort of thing, that may have worked in the practice group that you're interested in, and talk to them about what their experiences are. You want to talk to more than one. I mean, some people may not be that into it, or they may not have that great of an idea. If everyone that you talk to is that way, that might be an indicator itself. But if people have experiences, can tell you about what their program looks like and what they've gotten involved in, that's a good sign. And then again, do they have these pro bono dedicated people? Like, you might reach out to me if you researched our firm, or you might reach out to somebody on my team, and I could tell you about like what our program looks like, what's available, that sort of thing. If a firm doesn't have any of that infrastructure, if they don't have somebody fully dedicated to it full time, that might be an indicator as well, as you mentioned earlier, if it's maybe just a rotation or just not anything formal. So I'd say those few ways, really just rolling up your sleeves and doing some legwork beyond the website, can really give you a good idea, because it's all out there. It's all out there in the internet, and you can really compare and contrast firms, I think, if you just put a few hours into it.
Perfect. That is good advice. Said it's law firm websites are not easy to decipher.
No, they're not. They're really not. And I mean, a lot of them are flashy, a lot of them look pretty, but as far as a decision-making tool, you know, they got to go beyond that.
I always chuckle when the interview process, some partner will come in and say, well, they didn't look at the website, understand. Actually, you didn't look at the website and understand what the marketing people are telling the world. So yes, you do this. They're like, huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because they're written for clients, not for recruiting. So
Absolutely.
Always got to go a little further. This is an area where the only place you're going to get the information. I like what you said, questions, talk to people, and then Google will tell you the kinds of cases that are really being done out there. So
yeah, and I'd say too, like your research doesn't even stop with the first firm that you are at. Like, let's say you do a summer associate position at a firm, you continue to research there. You're going to learn about their culture during that time. It's also a time to continue to keep your ear to the ground of what's going on in the market. And again, I wouldn't just rely on one source. Like, you know, for example, some of them can be very self-selecting. If you go into Biglaw Reddit, like it can get pretty negative and that sort of thing about a lot of firms. And that's a data point, but it's not necessarily all the big picture. So I'd say have that be a part of your career growth and kind of your career self-care of always kind of researching what firms and companies are doing, even when you have a job. And just kind of being aware of that can help in many different ways.
Well, Luke, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. It's almost infectious because you can, as you start talking about it, you watch the smile grow. So, you know, for those that think that Biglaw is always miserable, you know, maybe you need to do a little bit of investigation. It is hard work, but there's a lot to it. That's really fun, really rewarding. So you really demonstrate that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I know all experiences will vary, but my experience here is a joy and I love it. And I think there are many people who Biglaw is a great fit for different reasons. And so I think it's just something to really think about. And if it's not, that's okay too, but it's great to explore it. And it gets me excited talking about these things. So it's always great to be here with you too.
Wonderful. Well, I hope to talk to you again soon and thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.